Good evening. An independent report into last year's riots in England has identified 500,000 forgotten families struggling with a range of problems. The Riots, Communities and Victims panel describes them as bumping along the bottom of society. Among the causes of the unrest, it lists poor parenting, low academic achievement and too much emphasis on materialism. Our home editor Mark Easton has more details.
Over the course of 5 extraordinary days last August, England learned how order and chaos are close neighbours. Rioting, looting and arson spreading like bushfires across the country, the politicians initially blaming criminality pure and simple, but then commissioning a report to look at the deeper social causes and lessons to be learned. The panel, chaired by Dara Singh, went to many of the riot-damaged neighbourhoods, including Tottenham, and was shocked by the sense of hopelessness they encountered.
I always find it shocking when presented with the starkness of the kind of some individuals' views about their lives and their prospects and the fact that they have no hopes and dreams. And the abiding memory for me will be talking to some young people, and actually that's what they said. We need hopes, we need dreams, we need a stake in society.
The report recommends the government's planned family support programme be expanded to cover 500,000 forgotten families who, it says, bump along the bottom of society. They want a new requirement for schools to develop policies on building character in young people and a government guarantee of a job for all young people who've been out of work for 2 years. Today's report throws responsibility for the riots back at government. It identifies a slice of society which has been allowed to become disconnected from the mainstream, of 500,000 forgotten families where children grow up without the character or the skills to become responsible citizens.
Each rioter has to take personal responsibility for the decision they made to burn down someone's shop, to loot things that did not belong to them, or to drive someone out of their home. But in the end, we know that parenting, that worklessness over generations, that materialism, all of those things contribute to this.
BBC research revealed last year how the rioters in Manchester came predominantly from the poorest areas of the city. Today, residents from those communities gave their reaction to the report.
I mean, there's a lot of families that are obviously suffering at the moment. There's no work out for people.
I think it was just everyone jumping on the bandwagon. Here it was anyway. It wasn't, I don't think there was a point to it.
While the riots saw some neighbourhoods turn on themselves, the appalling scenes also inspired a flowering of community spirit. After this convenience store in Hackney was stripped bare by local looters, residents came together to help the owner rebuild his business. Today, Siva says he's forgiven those who raided his store and believes the real lesson is the need for government to help young people.
Ministers and all, they have to look for the youngsters and they have to listen what the youngsters thinks, rather than politician talks, and, they should, listen to the youngsters, what they want, and if you satisfy them, you'll be fine. This is never going to happen again.
The riots were initially dismissed as criminality pure and simple. Today's report agrees it was criminality, but concludes there was nothing simple about it.
And Mark is with me now. Mark, there's no question. You referred to it in your last line there. Some people will see this as an exercise in excusing criminality.
Well, absolutely. And the report, to be fair, does absolutely say it does not do that. It's not excusing anything that happened during those days in August. But it is saying, look, if the government doesn't implement our recommendations, we cannot guarantee that there will not be further riots of this kind in the future. And they've come up with a whole string of ideas on how to reconnect those 500,000 forgotten families, the people bumping along on the bottom, how to reconnect them with mainstream society. For instance, they've got a bunch of ideas around schools. I mentioned in the report the idea that schools should take responsibility for character building of their pupils. Another idea is that where a pupil leaves a school unable to read or write properly, the school could be fined. I think personally that's going to be quite an impractical suggestion. nevertheless, I think what the panel are trying to say is, look, we have to do more to support those people who don't have the skills, the education, the character to become fully fledged citizens. This panel, don't forget, was handpicked by the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. It stresses that this was an act of criminality and that people are rightly punished for what they did. But it is also a warning that unless the government looks at its recommendations and looks at the ways in which it can reconnect those people who have fallen off the end of the caravan, if you like, we could find more riots again.
Mark, once again, thank you very much. Mark Easton there for us.